So let's jump back in with that question about housing, which is what's that intersection between quality of life reforms and housing, and what can you do to change quality of life issues here in Camden?
I think when you start to address the housing issue, I think a lot of quality of life issues in the city of Camden are going to change. Because I'll give you an example, and this is what I'm talking about, giving people a framework to organize so that they can petition the government for what they want. Once people know that the block captain means something, and that block captain has a way to petition the government to say, hey, look, there's 5 houses on our block that are constantly, with trash. Then you can go back to that block captain and say, listen, we're going to research who owns those houses. We're going to figure out who we can get to in our program that's going to rehabilitate these houses. We're going to be able to do something around this. That improves the quality of life of these blocks and these neighborhoods. Because now people realize, well, I don't have to live on the street where because the landlord put somebody out, there are 5 piles of trash and clothes and furniture on the street. We got somebody, even if I have to put up with that for a day or two, we have a way now to address that. I know that this landlord got dealt with as a result of that. I also think in dealing with the residential housing issue, I think that there are a ton of houses in the city of Camden that are at like that $40,000 or $50,000 price point. I think that if we had a way to make $30,000 or $40,000 available to fix that house up, you now have a property that maybe we cap what you sell it at. So maybe you fix it up for $40,000. Maybe now you can sell it for up to $60,000. Even at $60,000, a 20-year note on a house that's $60,000 in principal is affordable housing now. So my affordable housing program isn't Section 8. My affordable housing program is giving you a property that you pay the mortgage on, and you're responsible for the mortgage on it, and your property taxes are going, because that's the other thing about dealing with residential housing. If you get people to take back mortgages, the city automatically gets its property tax money, because the bank wants to be first lien holder, and if the city can take the property for property taxes, they won't be. So that gets a property that automatically injects money into your property tax rolls. So, but it also affects quality of life. So it's like one of these things, like I said, housing is the linchpin of what's going on in Camden and why Camden is what it is. And nobody's talked about it. And because nobody hasn't, we're dealing with all these issues. But to get to your other question about why nothing has been done, I've seen this when I was on the school board. When you deal with the current political structure in the city of Camden, and that's when you talk about the Norcross machine and that sort of thing, these people are used for their personality, and they are used for certain individual decisions. And then after that, they don't really care or understand or have any ability to fix anything else. So they just, whatever happens, happens.
So we've talked a lot about home ownership, and the other side of this coin is that sometimes there are populations that get squeezed as home values rise, and that
gentrification. You can use the G word.
It's gentrification, but if values were to rise, yeah. So senior citizens in particular who are paying taxes but no longer sort of in a position to reap a lot of the benefits may have to move as their home values rise, and renters. Do you think there are policy fixes to that? What do you think are ways that we can make sure that folks don't get squeezed out of Camden if house values were to go up?
Well, I mean, there's a couple things. One, gentrification is the natural side effect of a city that's functional. So the reality is, as Camden becomes more functional, home values and all these things are going to go up. So there is nobody that on the one hand can say, I'm going to fix the city of Camden, and on the other hand, not also be gentrifying the city. What I am saying is, I want to create a platform that people understand that these things are going to happen. And because they're going to happen, I'm telling you what you need to do to protect yourself now. Right now, home values are very, very cheap. You should buy a house in Camden if I become mayor. Because as the city, gets better, your home value is going to go up and you're going to protect yourself against some of those things. Right now, practically, there are so many. I think there's one of the last numbers that I checked, and this is a while since I looked at it, but there's over 6,000 abandoned houses in the city of Camden. I mean, it would take 4 or 5 years to, I think, fill each one of those abandoned houses. So you have a lot of lead time to kind of get your house in order and figure out how you're going to navigate this system. I mean, there are certain things, I guess, that we can protect people against in terms of, grandfathering them in under their old property tax. But, eventually it's going to happen. So the reality is you have to give people the information so that they can make a decision of how they're going to navigate it. But, like anybody that's going to tell you that I can, on the one hand, make the city better, but stabilize your property value so that it doesn't ever appreciate, that's not possible,
So you talked a little bit about abandoned homes, and this is something you hear all the time in the community, is my property value is being held down by the blighted house next to me, or I have problems with my house structure, which I'm keeping up because I'm connected.
I have problems with my house structure because they tore down a house 2 doors away from me.
So what can be done about blighted houses? Is it demolitions? Is there another program? What should the mayor be doing, and what would your administration do?
Well, like part of it is, like I said, I spoke a little earlier about credit unions and other creative ways to bring private capital to finance rehabilitation. I think between the mayor's office and the redevelopment authority, you have to begin to take a holistic look at redevelopment in the city. And I think in the near term, there are going to be sections of houses that we're going to incentivize people to take over and rehabilitate under whatever program we have. There are also going to be sections of houses that for strategic reasons, we're not going to rehabilitate. We are going to construct a plan where we're going to bring new housing into those areas, and we're going to do it in a way that people that had old housing in those areas will be able to get a new house, and participate in the new house, but we need to tear the existing infrastructure down. My house was built in like 1912 or 1913. It's out of step with where housing is now. So like on Hatton Avenue, quite honestly, that is a main thoroughfare in the city. And it's where I live, full disclosure. Those are the type of areas that I'd be looking at strategically and saying, Parkside, parts of Centerville, Whitman Park, these are areas that we really, really need to look at seriously redeveloping, because there is a middle class that I think wants to live someplace like Camden that there's no housing to support. And it's near train lines, it's near the hospital, it's got schools nearby, it's got all the things that people say they really want. And we have to take a holistic look of how we can upgrade the level of housing in the city, because that's the only way that you're going to, when you start to talk about some of the other quality of life issues like why we don't have a supermarket, well, part of it is because we don't have a population that can support it. You change the housing, you start to attract a a population that can support a full service grocery store, all of a sudden you got one. You know, so it's those sorts of things. So yeah, holistically, you have to really start to say, these pockets we'll redevelop for now. These pockets we've got to maybe take down an entire block and get somebody to come in here and redevelop a block, like a Javian or a Post or you know, even minority developers that want to get that chance. You work with them and say, listen, the city of Camden, if you're a minority developer and you're willing to hire residents or do these sorts of things, we're willing to give you a chance, a first crack at doing this property. You know,